Hello, this is Richard Castle. I am the producer of Inside the Deck. It's a show on GatheringMagic.com that covers Magic events, Magic strategies, deck techs, etc. in a documentary style, and sometimes a talk show type style. Now, before I actually go through each card in the deck, I like to explain exactly what the deck does. The commander, as you can see, is Ghave, Guru of Spores. So it's black, green, white. And the deck has 3 strategies. The main strategy is to recur creatures from your graveyard into the battlefield as quickly as possible. And by creatures, I mean like big, powerful creatures that have come into play abilities or that have trigger abilities during other players' upkeeps, stuff like that. The second strategy for this deck is actually playing the commander, Ghave. He comes with 5+1/+1 counters, but you can remove a +1/+1 counter to spawn a sapperling. And I have a land that produces sapperlings along with Grave Pact and a couple other cards that sacrifice creatures or make 1/1s bigger when they come into play. So producing all these 1/1 creatures and sacrifice them to do the Grave Pact ability gives you lots of control and just overwhelms your opponent. So that's the second strategy. And then the third strategy actually goes with Ghave as well, and that's to play him or play a creature called Forgotten Ancient into play and just put a bunch of +1/+1 counters on Forgotten Ancient, Ghave, other creatures, your sapperlings, and also overwhelm your opponent that way. But you actually want to use all 3 strategies to your advantage when it comes to playing, especially in Commander multiplayer, because all 3 work so well. And this is my favorite Commander deck, not because it's good, but because it's so fun, so synergistic, and just interacts in almost all levels of Magic. Now, I'll begin going through the cards. So Ghave is the commander. You can see here, I'm going to go through the mana base, starting with the land. I'm not going to show you my basic land, I'm just going to list them. I play with 11 swamps, black is the primary color, followed by 10 forests, because green's a secondary color, and then 2 plains, because white is just splashable, and it's mostly used as targeted removal. So, here we go. First, I will start with the non-basic land, Reliquary Tower, Command Tower, Temple of the False God, Terramorphic Expanse, a fetch land, Evolving Wilds, another fetch land, Cycle lands, Vivid lands, they produce any mana when they come into play with 2 charge counters. Ravnica lands, that forces you to return a land to your hand when they come into play, but they produce 2 different colors. This land goes well with the graveyard. It's a man land that has power toughness equal to the amount of creature cards in the graveyard, 4 or 5, and produces a colorless. It's pretty good. This land produces sapperlings, and it works really well with Ghave. More mana base, Soul Ring, Sakura-Tribe Elder. He also works well with Grave Pact because, he has the sack ability. Armillary Sphere is just a help me search for the right land. Realms Uncharted, Kodama's Reach, Cultivate, Darksteel Ingot, Yavimaya Elder, and Dreamstone Hedron. Skull Clamp works really well with 1/1 toughness token spawning spells or lands. And Commander It's not as broken, but it's still one of the best equipment out there. Lightning Grease is another excellent equipment that protects your most valuable creatures. Nim Deathmantle goes real well to counter wrath effects, creature removal, and even works better with creatures that have come into play abilities. Eternal Witness is one of the best green creatures. Gets any card you want, and it's a creature. Acidic Slime comes into play, kills many different targets. Awesome card. Bloodgift Demon, a new card from Innistrad, card advantage in creature form. Really good. Duplicant, another creature with a great come into play ability. Swords of Plowshares is my white splashable targeted removal. Removes creature from the game, awesome. Same with Path to Exile. Mortify, another targeted removal that can destroy a creature or enchantment. Putrefy, same thing, can destroy a creature or an artifact. The new card, Sever the Bloodline, is another exile target creature spell, but has splashback and destroys that creature or any creature with the same name, which is awesome. Relic Crush is a 2-for-1 card, instant, destroys up to 2 target artifact or enchantment. Death Mutation is a removal spell that goes with the saplings because when we remove the creature, it produces X11 green sapling creature tokens onto the battlefield where X is that creature's converted mana cost. Really good. Costs a lot though, 8 mana, but very good. Oblivion Stone is my only wrath effect, and I can play more, like Damnation stuff, but most players are going to have wrath effects, so you don't need too much. And Oblivion Stone is just awesome. Phyrexian Arena, standard black card that gives you card advantage. Same with Syphon Mind, awesome with multiplayer. Harmonize, concentrate in green form. Sorin Markov is my only planeswalker, and he's not synergistic with the deck. It's just that this is my only black commander deck, and I really want to use Sorin Markov. I do own a Liliana of the Veil and Garruk Relentless, but they're my standard decks, and I don't use proxies, so Sorin Markov is just in the deck just because I want to play with them. Buried Alive is the first of the reanimation spells I'm going to show you. Buried Alive, one of the best reanimator spells. Splinter Fright, new card from Innistrad, awesome, only for 3. XX with Trample equal to, the X is equal to the creatures in your graveyard, and it mills for you. Golgari Grave-Troll, he dredges, gets cards in your graveyard, so you can reanimate, get Threshold, etc. Reanimate, one of the best reanimator spells, only for 1 black. Classic. Stitched together, you'll always get Threshold, so this card will always work. Dredge Return, another awesome card. Rise from the Grave, another reanimator spell for 5. The new Unburial Rites is awesome with this deck because the flashback costs 1 white and 3 colorless, which, justifies me, using white even more. So I like this card. Beacon of Unrest, it steals artifacts or creatures from other players' graveyards, or use your own. Living Death is I always call it the backup. When my opponent just keeps killing my creatures, I just play Living Death. Return all my creatures from my graveyard into play. Nezumi Grave Robber, another creature that can reanimate creatures from my graveyard into play. Brawn has an ability when he's in the graveyard. It gives all my creatures in the battlefield trample. Mortivore is awesome because his power tough is equal to all creatures in all graveyards. Vulture Zombie gets big really fast because it's any card that goes to the graveyard. And with Brawn, he becomes a big threat. Extractor Demon is awesome because his Unearth ability, and whenever a creature comes to the battlefield, you can mill 2 cards from your deck to your graveyard or your opponent's deck to their graveyard. Geth works well with the Reanimator deck. Shieldred, he reanimates creatures from your graveyard into the battlefield during your upkeep and has the Abyss ability during your opponent's upkeep. Avatar of Woe works really well when you're milling creatures into your graveyard. Carador, another card that has white that works real well with the deck. Fallen Angel works really well with Grave Pact that I haven't showed yet. But, sacrificing creatures to make it bigger with Grave Pact, right, as you can see right here, is really good. Also, Butcher of Malachor, creature with the Grave Pact ability. So you have 2 Grave Pacts in the deck. Attrition, an enchantment that destroys creatures when you sacrifice a creature. Works well with Grave Pact. Awakening Zone produces Eldrazi spawns, 0/1s. Helps you excel your mana as well as using them to sack with for Grave Pact or just to make your creatures bigger. This guy, he produces 1/1s and gives you card advantage by having your opponent discard a card at random during your upkeep. Symbiotic Worm is really good in this deck because when he dies, he produces 7/1/1 insect tokens, and with Fallen Angel and other creatures, you can sack your creatures with. This guy can produce a lot of creatures. And then with Graveyard Recursion, you can have a lot of 1/1s out fast. This guy just works well with creatures going into the graveyard, and you're going to have a lot going into the graveyard in this deck. And she's just really good. Forgotten Ancient, I already explained about him. He just makes himself bigger and your other creatures bigger during your upkeep. And this guy, same deal, and just counters, and you can put more counters on him, and with Forgotten Ancient and stuff, your creatures get big fast. This guy gives 2+1/+1 counters to every 1/1 that comes into play. He's another good card. The only card that costs double white in the deck. Triskelion works really well with Forgotten Ancient, because you can just keep putting +1/+1 counters on them and removing them to deal damage. And the last card is Vishkal, Blood Arbiter. He's really good. Probably the strongest creature in the deck. He has flying, lifelink, and you can sacrifice a creature to put a +1/+1 counter on it equal to its power. And then you can move all +1/+1 counters from it and give target creature -1/-1 until end of turn equal to the +1/+1 counters removed. Very good, especially with Forgotten Ancient, especially with a bunch of 1/1s. He's awesome. Good with Grave Pact, justifies white being in the deck even more, and lifelink gets you back in the game. And so that's the deck. And like I said, there's a lot of cards that can be added into this deck. I've gotten many suggestions, and the deck's always changing and will continue to change, and I'll put even more powerful cards. But like I said before, I like my commander decks to be less powerful because I have competitive decks that use, the powerful cards, and it's casual, and I don't want to be a big threat when I'm in the game by playing, dual lands, wrath effects, just powerful, expensive cards, when I can just win through this sneaky, tricky way. And it's a lot of fun. Plus, you get to use different cards that you don't normally use. So that's the deck, and I hope you enjoyed watching this, and keep playing Commander.